One of the simplest ways to have a much better lawn throughout the growing season is to sharpen your mower blade way more often. It's simple to do. It's way easier than most people realize. At your house, you can get this job done in minutes. Let's go into the garage and I'm going to show you some of the most common ways and the easiest ways to get your blade sharpened. All right, the first step in sharpening your mower blade is literally tipping the machine back. You won't be able to tip it this far unless you drain stuff out. So you time it around like when it runs out of gas. That'll make it a little bit easier. Also, you would disconnect the spark plug. I only run battery-powered mowers, so it's a lot easier for me. I just pop the battery out. Now, this is where you've got some options. Lots of people just scrounge around looking for scrap pieces of wood that they can find a good spot to just kind of wedge the blade in there, because when you turn this nut, your blade is going to be spinning. It can be hard to find the right piece of wood. So instead of just keeping the perfect scrap pieces of wood, I just use this tool. It's a lot simpler. You don't have to use this tool. Most people don't use it, but it's what I use. It's just a blade stop. I'll link to it down below. You don't have to buy it though, but it holds it. Now you're going to need a socket wrench. I recommend getting a socket wrench or maybe a drill version of one of these things. Sized properly, you could use one of these. However, the more you sharpen your blades, the more you're going to strip your nut if you're using one of these. Long handles work better. It's just easier to turn them. That's it right there. You need to just pop that thing off. Always keep the orientation of everything in mind as you're removing it. I'm going to put the nut right there. I'm not even going to take that off. It doesn't need to be clean. Here I've got this little plate. I note the direction that it faces. So I'm going to put that back. Now with your blade itself, you always want to keep in mind, you don't want to install it backwards. Now it's really easy to remember that. Some people tell you that you could mark it, things like that. You don't need to mark it. The blade itself, the beveled edge of the blade faces the deck. That's just how it is. If you have it the other way around, when it goes to cut, like if you could get it to fit, I couldn't even get this blade to go on upside down, but if I could, if the beveled edge is pointing down, then it's not going to cut grass correctly. When the beveled edge is pointing up, it's going to cut the grass cleanly, and it's going to pull the grass towards the deck where we want it. That's how it mulches, and that's how it bags. Now to clean the grime off the bottom of the blades, I use the same tool that I use to clean the debris that collects under the mower deck itself. First I scrape large chunks off with my scraper tool, but then I use this little bristle brush attached to my drill. As we get all of that grime and stuff off of the bottom of our mower and our blade, it just helps with airflow. And you need airflow if we're going to be sucking the grass blades up to cut them or to properly mulch and bag clippings. All right, now that the blade is off and that we've kind of scraped the debris off and polished it a little bit, it's clean. The deck is clean enough. I'm not going to polish the underside of the deck. The next thing to talk about is the actual blade. That's the reason that you're watching this video. This blade is looking really good simply because I sharpen it regularly and I don't have a lot of rocks in my lawn. I don't usually hit things with this blade, so it doesn't get significant dings. The more frequently you tend to your blade, the cleaner it's going to be, the easier it is going to be to keep it sharp and in good condition. Eventually, you'll have to swap this thing out and buy a brand new blade because they might bend if you hit something big. And sometimes if you clip a rock, you might create a burr big enough that there's really no reasonable way to fix it. General maintenance, however, every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how often you mow, this becomes a piece of cake. Now, this is just a general purpose metal grinder. I would kind of put this on a block, usually in the grass or in the driveway, and I would just go over it, attempting to match the angle. The problem with that is it's just slightly awkward to hold it, and you got to like really wedge the thing down, and you're never really sure because as you put it on a block and you stick your foot on it to hold it in place, it kind of wobbles a little bit. I started thinking this could be easier. This could be less awkward if I give myself a vise, so like a tabletop vise. I've had these in houses past, but when we moved in this house, I just never put one in. This was finally the motivation for me to go out and buy one. Easy usually wins in almost all scenarios around the house. And this is easy. This has been the method that I've used for a while now, using a handheld angle grinder with my blade in my desk vise. Let me show you how I do it. Now for this method, all I do is I turn this way so I have access to the blade right here, tighten it up, make sure that's tight. Now from this position, I can see this angle really clear, and I can put this angle grinder right up against my chest, and I can put it right on there and just kind of lean back and forth ever so slightly. That's how I ensure that I get a very even cut or grind against this angle and get it as precise as possible. Filming a video, I almost forgot eye protection. All right, now we got to level it. These things, this is what I'm talking about. You can buy these in little hardware stores in your town. They cost almost nothing at all. You can also buy it online for a little bit more expensive. No matter what, these things are cheap. I'm going to go ahead and put that there. Then I'm going to grab my blade and stick it on there and make sure that it looks level enough. That looks pretty level to me. It could be slightly better, but not by very much. I could take a little tiny material off of this side over here to make it slightly better, but we're getting into diminishing return. Now from here, we're just going to take the blade and bolt it right back onto the bottom of our mower, exactly the same way that we took it off. Cutting the grass with a sharp blade is going to result in grass that is more resistant to disease during the high disease pressure times of the year. Now during the summer, if we want to keep our lawns green, we need to have sharp blades cutting the grass, and we need to be watering the lawn less often. Both of these tactics are going to improve our grass's resistance to disease. I have a video up here all about how I keep my lawn green during the summer without watering it every day. Make sure to watch that next.